When I was in elementary school, I always had a tough time falling asleep just because I was with my brother. He's only a year older than me. And this is how it would go. Our mom would send us to our room. It would be kind of dark. We'd be getting ready to go to sleep. And as we're laying in bed, I'm on the top bunk. We have a bunk bed. It's like the bunk bed that I grew up with as a kid. So I slept in that bed ever since I was in like high school or middle school, somewhere around there. Ever since I was a little baby. So I would be sent to my room. I'd be on the top bunk, my brother on the bottom one. And then we'd be closing our eyes, trying to go to sleep. And of course, one of us says something. And once one of us says something, and it could be anything. It could just be like a thoughtful question or a silly joke or bring up something that happened earlier that day. But as soon as one of us says anything, we just stay up for hours, just talking about the most random stuff that it really does not matter at all. And I remember one night that happened, sent to our room, in bed, eyes closed. One of us brings up something, and we just keep talking and talking. And I'm going to share something that I probably shouldn't be bringing up, but it's okay, because there's a lesson to it. But we were talking, and eventually we got to where we were talking about girls at the school, and I was a very insecure kid. Even to this day, I'm pretty insecure. Now I'm not as much, but definitely back then, I always had problems with my body. Like, I always thought I was too big. Whenever I took my shirt off, I would just constantly suck my belly in, like pull in the air so it makes it look like I'm skinnier. And those were the types of issues that I was dealing with. And because of that, I would always body shame people. Like, especially when I was in elementary school, middle school, I would always pretty much just fat shame anyone because I knew that I was struggling with those things. So I just pointed it out towards everyone else. And as I was talking with my brother, I didn't talk about how I was dealing with these issues. No, I talked about how there's girls at the school who are just fat. It's saying it out loud now. Oh my goodness. I was a misled little kid. And we were talking and I was listing out like 10 girls who were all fat in our school. Now remember, I was a broken kid who always struggled with my weight. And I was just pointing it out at these people and back at these innocent girls who did not deserve this. But I was just fat shaming them, listing them out. I was like, oh my goodness, these girls are so fat. I was telling all of that to my brother. And now the next day comes, we wake up early, say it's just another typical day. Because we have talks like that all the time. So it's another typical day. We wake up, head to the bus stop, go to school. And school is like it always is. Just another typical day. We're learning math and reading, go out to recess. Then when I'm at recess, some of my friends, they come up to me, they're like, Dean, did you hear? I was like, no, what happened? And then all the girls are giving me the bombastic side up. They're all looking at me like, stay away from him. Don't talk to him. He's mean. He's a rude, mean kid. And I definitely was. And that was definitely something that I shouldn't do. So maybe looking back at it, maybe it was a good, because then I learned not to do that. But there's another bigger lesson I think that I learned from it. But I came to find out the things I was telling my brother the night before, he came to school the very next day and just started telling everyone. And I was like, bro, I mean, I didn't tell him not to tell anyone, but I didn't want him to tell anyone. I wasn't expecting to come to school the next thing I know, all the 10 girls I listed are out here hunting me down. Like, what the heck? So then I go through that day and I'm like, oh my goodness. And that followed me. The thing that I did there, that followed me for actually ages. Because I went to school with the same girls up until like middle school when I finally moved. But that dumb decision I made, oh my goodness. Those girls hated me for a lifetime. They probably still hate me to this day. It was a bad decision. I was a hurt kid. I'll blame it on that. It was no buenos. And then after that, like a couple months passed by. I'm not sure how much time passed by, but eventually my dad sat us down, me and my brother, and we had a talk. And my dad was telling us, he said, Dean, niece, I want you guys to trust each other. Because after that event, after that moment, I was like, man, I cannot trust this fool no more. But he said, Dean, there are certain things that you know as a brother that you're privileged to know about your brother, niece. He said the same thing to my brother. He said, niece, there are things that you know that as a brother you are privileged to know. And those things that both of you know about each other stay between each other. And that was really the first time looking back where I was like, dang, there's this certain brotherly trust that I have to hold with my brother. And not only that, but this applies to all relationships. There's a certain trust that I have to have with my mom, a certain trust I have to have with my sisters, with close friends, that if they tell me this thing, I will keep it between us. And then from that day on, I've definitely been more careful with what I tell other people. Because there are things that people tell me, like in passing, that I don't really think much of. But to me, I feel like it's better to keep it to myself, to keep it between me and the other person, rather than telling everyone else. But yeah, that's the lesson for this episode. Kind of a roundabout way of telling it, but I feel like you should always pair stories with lessons. So that was the story with the lesson. And also hits on another point that I've been thinking about a lot, actually. Is this idea of body image and health. Because for the longest time, I always struggled with that. I mean, like I was saying before, whenever I took my shirt off, I would suck my stomach in. There's like a certain way to say it. I think it's called like sucking it in. I would suck it in. And I did it so much that eventually I got to the point where I would just do it regularly. Like even if I had a shirt on, even if I had like a whole jacket on, or if I was running, I would just normally do it because that's what I was trained to do. And whenever I would look at myself in the mirror, I was like, oh, that's me. And then when I would let it out, I was like, I would get so sad of myself. Man, with the life update, I mean, not really much of an update today. Today's a Sunday, so gotta go to church and do all that stuff. So I didn't really get much work done. Actually, I don't think I've gotten any work done. But there's something else that I'm really starting to explore, like way deeper, and that's pragmatism. Pragmatism is so interesting, man. I'll probably do an episode on it tomorrow or the day after or something. But it's basically just a way or a methodology and a way to think about life. Like kind of like stoicism, but pragmatism is more like, what are the practical consequences of you believing in something rather than not? Let's say it like this. Let's say you meet a stranger and the question is that person a friend? Now, when you look at this pragmatically speaking, you have to look at the consequences of either decision. Either this person is a friend or you believe this person is not a friend. If you play that out and you consider this person a friend, you invite them to all the social gatherings, bring them around your other friends, hang out more, then eventually you might actually become friends. But if you choose the other direction and you choose to believe this person is not a friend, then you won't invite them to anything. You won't get to know them. You don't find out you have anything in common. And from there, you're not friends. Surprise, surprise. And there's really a lot of ways to apply this. But because I'm most interested in religion and in the question of whether God exists or not, and if he does, which religion has the right conception of God, I don't know. I'm really interested in that. So that's the first place my mind goes to with pragmatism. These questions about theology and God existing, stuff like that. And I was listening to a podcast today about free will. And free will is super interesting. And this is probably a deeper dive that I should do later, but it's on my mind. But if you look at the choices that you make today, it's hard to say that those choices weren't influenced by something else outside of you. Like, for example, let's say my favorite movie. My favorite movie, I would probably say, is a new Spider movie that came out a couple months ago. And if I look at that, it's hard to say whether or not my favorite movie is really a choice of my own. Because there's a whole bunch of other factors that eventually brought me to the decision that that movie is my favorite movie. Like, for example, the fact that I'm born here, that I was born in California, in America, plays a lot into what type of movies I even watch in the first place. And the place where I'm born, I have no control over. But taking it even further, all of my life experiences have shaped my mind into the type of person who likes family, with adventure, with superpowers, with all the things that Spider-Man, the movie, that it brings to the table. So really, if you look back at it, all of the things that I know, all the things that I think I know, it really all be traced back to the time I was born. That's probably a very complicated way of putting it, because I don't know enough about pragmatism, which is why I want to learn more about it. I actually took a class on this first quarter of college, but I didn't really dive deep into the stuff. But another way to explain it is imagine you have this supercomputer, and in the supercomputer, you can plug in all the different information about all the different particles that are out there in the universe, and it knows everything. If you plug it in with all the information that it needs just from one point. Let's say the point where the universe began, the point where the Big Bang happened. If you let it know all this information and then you play it out, the supercomputer should be able to, from that information, make predictions about how the world is going to be. And eventually, if you play that out long enough, we get to the point where we're like, we have no say in the matter. It's just how things are. It's how I was born. It's how things in my life have impacted me. And that's it. Which is why some people don't believe in free will. But looking at it from a pragmatic perspective, I think believing in free will does more gain than harm. Because say, for example, someone discovered that scientifically they've proven free will doesn't exist. They've shown this theory or this proof and everything checks out. And in the end, we get free will equals false. I think in that event, it's probably better to believe that free will exists. Because could you imagine if we came to the point where free will doesn't exist, what that would do to our criminal justice system? Because our entire system is based on people having free will and having the ability to be punished for that free will because they freely chose to do those crimes. But if we get to the point where it's like, well, no, because of their upbringing, because of their childhood, because of their past traumas, it's really not their fault. Even then, I think the practical consequences of believing in free will is probably better than the consequences of not believing in it. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think through this stuff. Even applying that to God, to Mormonism, oh my goodness. You got a lot of things to think about, for sure. And that was definitely a very, very wordy episode. This episode's kind of been all over the place, but it's okay. I'm just sharing my thoughts, an open diary to the world. Oh, and there's a couple things that I found out. First is my why, which I shared before. My why is to share success with everyone. And then my how, I talked about it a couple episodes ago, is to fail forward. It's to just keep failing forward. Because I think failing forward, that type of mindset, it allows you to be okay with failing. Because in the end, eventually it'll get you to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, and eventually to success. But then some other things that I've been thinking about are values. Like, what are the values that I think are really important? And one of the values I think is really important is trust. Just from doing this episode, talking out loud, really thinking about it, I think trust is really important. Trust, a pretty good value to have. But yeah, this was a very philosophical episode. But that's okay. I'm a philosophizer. It's what I do. But that's everything for this one. I shall see you in the next one.